We're going to move into our first bracket of presentations. To assist me with our first bracket, please help me welcome George Letchford, Pat Taylor and Michelle Elders. If we can make sure that we are prompt and ready for our presentations. We are going to be moving through this quite quickly, so we can please make sure that we are prompt and ready for our presentations. Starting with event number 1, which is the Coach Rec Adult Latin for the Samba. First, 170, Riley and Shane. Second, 135, Andrew and Tan. Third, 195, Blake and Maya. Event number 2 was the Coach Rec Adult Latin for the Cha-Cha. First, 170, Riley and Shane. Second, 135, Andrew and Tam. Third, 139, Simon and Caitlin. Event number 3 was the Coach Rec Under 21 Latin for the Samba. First, 195, Blake and Maya. Also for the Coach Rec Under 21 Latin for the Cha-Cha, first 195, Blake and Maya. Event number 5 was the Coach Rec Masters 1 Latin for the Samba. First 173, Reese and Wendy. Second 132, Leon and Ji Hong. Third 163, Glenn and Angela. The Coach Rec Masters 1 Latin for the Cha-Cha. First, 173, Reese and Wendy. Second, 132, Leon and Ji Hong. Third, 167, Alberta and Louisa. Event number 7A, the Coach Rec Masters 3 and 4 Latin for the Samba. In first, 133, Andrew and Zhang Ping. Event number 8A, the Recreational Adult Follow Latin for the Samba. First, 14, Albert and Ruby. Again, if we can please be prompt for our presentations, we do need to get this one moving as quickly as possible. Event 9, the Coach Rec Masters 3 and 4 Latin for the Cha-Cha. First, 189, Michael and Frederick. And second, 133, Andrew and Zhang Ping. Event 10, the Coach Rec Masters 2 Latin for the Samba. First, 152, Lucian and Jeannie. Second, 173, Reese and Wendy. Third, 132, Leon and Ji Hong. Event 11, the Coach Rec Masters 2 Latin for the Cha-Cha. First, 173, Reese and Wendy. Second, 152, Lucian and Jeannie. Third, 132, Leon and Ji Hong. Event 12A, the Recreational Adult Follow Latin for the Cha-Cha. First, 14, Albert and Ruby. Event 13A, the Recreational Masters 2 Lead Latin for the Cha-Cha. First, 18, Lucia and Kaylee. Event 14B, the Recreational Under 21 Follow for the Latin and the Samba. First, 16, Reese and Alexis. Event 15B, the Recreational Under 21 Lead Latin for the Samba. First, 17, Olivia and Rachel. Event 16C was the Recreational Under 21 Follow Latin. First, 16, Reese and Alexis. And event 17C, the recreational under 21 league Latin for the Cha-Cha. First, 17, Olivia and Rachel. Event 18, the coach student adult Latin for the Samba. First, 105, Riley and Danny. Second, 153, Maria and Isabella. Third, 154, Samuel and Stephanie. And thank you very much to Mr. Webster for flying all the way over from Victoria. Thank you very much. Event 19, the coach student adult Latin for the Cha-Cha. First, 105, Riley and Danny. Second, 154, Samuel and Stephanie from Victoria. And third, 153, Maria and Isabella. The coach student adult Latin for the Rumba. First, 105, Riley and Danny. Second, 154, Samuel and Stephanie. Third, 153, Maria and Isabella. And for the coach student adult Latin for Jive. First, 105, Riley and Danny. Second, 154, Samuel and Stephanie. Third, 153, Maria and Isabella. Event 22, the coach student Masters 1 Latin for the Samba. First, 145, Jack and Gemma. Second, 165, Alberto and Marnik. Third, 136, Simon and Lauren. Event 23, the coach student Masters 1 Latin for the Cha-Cha. First, 145, Jack and Gemma. Second, 136, Simon and Lauren. Third, 142, Vasile and Rachel. Event 24, the coach student Masters 1 Latin for the Rumba. First, 146, Jack and Claire. Second, 142, Vasile and Rachel. Third, 136, Simon and Lauren. Event 25, the coach student Masters 1 Latin for the Jive. First, 142, Vasile and Rachel. Second, 146, Jack and Claire. And third, 136, Simon and Lauren. Event 26, the coach student under 21 Latin for the Samba. First, 158, Brody and Valerie. Second, 181, Riley and Eloise. Third, 131, Daniel and Mackenzie. Event 27 was the coach student under 21 Latin for the Cha-Cha. First, 158, Brody and Valerie. Second, 181, Riley and Eloise. Third, 131, Daniel and Mackenzie. Event 28, the coach student under 21 Latin for the Rumba. First, 158, Brody and Valerie. Second, 161, Alberto and Isabella. Third, 174, Reese and Riley. And event 29, the coach student under 21 Latin for the Jive. First, 158, Brody and Valerie. Second, 174, Reese and Riley. Third, 131, Daniel and Mackenzie. Event 30, the coach student Masters 2 Latin for the Samba. First, 121, Blake and Lisa. Second, 147, Jack and Maylin. And third, 129, Natalia and Kane from South Australia. Event 31, the coach student Masters 2 Latin for the Cha-Cha. First, 147, Jack and Maylin. Second, 121, Blake and Lisa. Third, 152, Lucian and Jean. Event 32, the coach student Masters 2 Latin for the Rumba. First, 121, Blake and Lisa. Second, 147, Jack and Maylin. Third, 152, Lucian and Jean. Event 33A, the Coach Student Masters 2 Latin for the jive. And in first, 1-2-1, Blake and Lisa. Event 34A, the Coach Student Masters 3 and 4 Latin for the jive. First, 1-3-8, Andrew and Corinne. And second, 1-2-0, Basile and Janelle. Event 35, the Coach Student Masters 3 and 4 Latin American for the samba. First, 1-3-8, Andrew and Corinne. Second, 1-2-0, Basile and Janelle. Third, 1-2-9, Natalia and Kay from South Australia. Event 36, the Coach Student Masters 3 and 4 Latin for the cha-cha. First, 1-3-8, Andrew and Corinne. Second, 1-2-0, Basile and Janelle. Third, 1-2-9, Natalia and Kay from South Australia. Event 37, the Coach Student Masters 3 and 4 Latin for the rumba. First, 1-3-8, Andrew and Corinne. Second, 1-2-0, Basile and Janelle. Third, 1-2-9, Natalia and Kay from South Australia. Event 38A, the Pro-Am Masters Latin. In first place, 104, Jack and Juanita. And in second place, 121, Blake and Lisa. Event 39A, the Pro-Am Under 21 Latin. First, 177, Stephen and Zhao. And in second, 161, Alberto and Isabella. And our final result for this bracket of events, event 40, the Pro-Am Adult Latin American. First, 105, Riley and Danny. Second, 111, Stephen and Ziana. And third, 124, Natalia and Blair from South Australia. So it should be 105 for first, 111, Stephen and Ziana for second, and 124, Natalia and Blair for third. Oh, here comes Ziana, she's coming. Don't run, it's okay. Please let me thank our presenters for our first bracket, George Letchford, Pat Taylor, and Michelle Elders. If I can please call our Nouveau panel of adjudicators to the floor, please. If we can please clear the floor, we're going to get straight into our next bracket of events.